Hi, Kaylee. Welcome to the show.
Hi,
And
thank
thank
you
you
so much
once
for
again.
having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here. Um, so I just wanted to say, first of all, that I do appreciate for you saying yes to be part of this and for giving us the time to share, some of the things that you're also doing right now as a coach and as a positive psychology practitioner. So, as I was reading through your bio, I noticed that you've had quite an adventure. Like you've led a few adventurous things in your life, and one of the things that actually really piqued my interest is your stint as a professional yachting crew. So,
Yes.
just to kick off this conversation a little bit, do you have like a fun story to share with us to
Uh,
start with? What was it
well,
like?
that whole adventure has been wild. My life's been very varied, I'd say, with my experiences. I've definitely lived outside the box. And yachting was a wonderful adventure. It was a glimpse into the luxury side of things, a way to see the world and kind of get paid to do it. Um, it was the first time in my life that I was like, all about me. I'm just gonna go live for me. And then ironically, I meet and fall in love with my husband on my very first boat.
Uh,
So
Oh, wow. Look at that. Okay, great.
yeah.
That's awesome. That's really, yeah, that's a fun story though. Yeah,
Oh,
this your
absolutely.
first boat
First
and you
boat.
actually met your husband on that
The things you
first
tell yourself
yachting.
you won't do?
No, but I do admire that kind of like wild setting off like a wild adventure in search for something, finding whatever probably that thing that you're searching for, right?
Exactly.
And I know that you also you have a background in psychology.
Yeah, my
And
background's in clinical psych
yeah,
and criminal justice,
okay.
actually, which is also
Yeah.
varied.
So
um,
so how did you get back to from having that background in psychology and then you did a little bit of that in between, in search for something. And after that you went to positive psychology. Is that right?
yes, that in between, I always say it's kind of like me searching for what makes life worth living for me. You know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
what's the point? What fulfills me? What fuels my soul? And I've always had a yearning to see the world and experience as much as I can. I think the world's all about connections and experiences. So it was a
Right.
chance to really meet people from other walks of life, which was lovely. All of that being said, I found myself 6 years into it, still feeling like I was missing something. Like there was a hole that wasn't being fulfilled. And it was really during COVID times that I reflecting on, I'm like, what's missing here? And it was the piece of I love people and I love watching people thrive. Like there's nothing that gives me more of like a positive burst of energy and like just fulfilled happiness than seeing somebody else like in their element achieving their dreams. And that's really what was missing. I mean, as fun as it can be seeing different
Mm-hmm.
places and popping champagne for billionaires, it just wasn't serving my purpose. And that calling as I got older was getting louder. So I knew I wanted to go back to working with people. Positive psychology is something that kind of fell on my doorstep right at the right time and was
Mm-hmm.
exactly what I was looking for. Because I really do think that people aren't broken and they're not missing anything. And the part of psychology working in like clinical mental health before
Mm-hmm.
was very much just diagnosing what was wrong
Right.
and getting people to live with the absence of that and not about building on their strengths and their passions and creating a fulfilled life with no
Mm-hmm.
cap to it. Um, so yeah, if I it fell in my doorstep, somebody introduced me to the Flourishing Center. Literally within 2 days, I figured out how to get the money for the program and signed up for it. Started a little late, as you remember, and it just
Oh, yeah,
it,
yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah.
it is everything that that I was looking for because I knew I wanted to
Uh-huh.
work more with like I don't know. At that point, I was calling it the worried well, but now I'm just thinking it's people that that know that there's more in life, and want more and are willing to search within themselves for it, and be open to new experiences. And
Yeah.
positive psychology is perfect for that.
That's pretty cool that you're able to actually find something and acted on it. I think that's the difference though. I mean, each one at some point probably would feel that way that, oh, something's missing, and no matter what I do, it's like it's just not fitting in, right? And
Yeah,
like you mentioned, it's okay. I am here in a wild adventure when you were doing your yachting, and then like you said, this is not serving my purpose because
right,
I want to experience the world, but at the same time, I also want to see other people thrive. So it's not everyone who get to also find what that missing piece is.
right.
So I think it's great that you're able to at least find that. And I mean, as long as we're alive, we're constantly like looking or improving and doing
For
stuff. Yeah, that
yes,
that would help us out. So, and positive psychology is one of those things for you. Um, I know that you have also in your journey, right, in terms of the positive psychology path, you have written or made or created a
yes,
journal, right? And it's
yes,
it's a
yes.
self-care journal, is that right?
It is. It is a daily self-care journal. Um, it's one of my many ideas of ways to put the positive message of turning inwards to yourself and empowering people to know that they have everything they need within them. And this is something that I've been wanting to put out for a long time, and it's
Mm-hmm.
actually not the journal that I've been working on forever, but pieces of it. And I decided to like kind of uncomplicated a lot in my brain, and put out what I knew people could benefit from in a like a not scary, super committal way. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I look at this as a soft opening to getting to know yourself and creating a new perspective for yourself and a new way to gain a relationship with you. I kind of look at it as creating a date to hang out with yourself for at least 10 minutes
I
a
love
day,
that.
once a day, and an opportunity to cultivate the you that you would most love to hang out with. And I think if you look at it that way, it's not like something that I have to do. It's like, yay, I have a date with me and I can't wait to
Mm-hmm.
see what's in me that I can pull out today. So it's written in a way that like you could breeze through it, just check off. It's really you can put as little or as much into it as you want. The prompts are very broad,
Mm-hmm.
and you could choose to dive in deep on some days or just kind of graze through it. But either way, if you zoom out to the big picture of what it is, it's giving people an opportunity to just create awareness around where there might not have been. And just simply by putting that into your daily focus, even if you're
Mm-hmm.
doing the bare minimum, you are essentially giving your brain a mission to start seeing things differently. And like that I was like, "That's what I'm trying to do. Don't overcomplicate it. Get this out there and build on that," you know?
Yeah, and I love that you did mention that don't overcomplicate because we do overcomplicate things. And I think there's a
Every
tendency
day.
of, each one that wanting to create something, but then spend so much time just ruminating on that because, for some reason, like, oh, what would other people say? Or, oh my God, this is not going to be good, or somebody else is going to do it better. So I'm really also curious about what was the process in between like. So I mean, you said that, oh, this is not the final journal that
Right.
I wanted in the first place to bring out. So, but then you said, okay, let me start something. I want to bring something out. And how did that, like, what was going on in your head when you were trying
I think I
to bring it
it
out?
was the I don't wanna say the pressure, but like a strong yearning and calling to just get the message out there and start to switch people's brains. You know what I mean? And that it didn't need to be like a full positive psychology boot camp that I, in
Yeah.
my head, needed it to be. Like I would consider myself a chronic overthinker and overfeeler. And just like I teach my clients, like if you zoom out of the room, zoom out of the computer, zoom out of the building into the big experience of like what it is, what are you trying to achieve with this? And really simplified it into a way that will be more usable for people, more welcoming for people to step into, and not overwhelm them. Like a lot of people pick up self help books and journals,
Yeah.
and the chances of you doing it, if it's looked at as like a big obstacle, a big chore, a big thing to switch, um, the chances of you following through with it on a regular basis, it goes down. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think for me, it was just what am I doing this for? And what do I want people to walk away from using it with? Um, so really it took a lot of work editing my own
Yeah.
brain.
Oh gosh.
But I'm happy with what I put out there, and I think it's just like I said, it's an invitation for people to just start to look at themselves with grace, compassion, and curiosity,
Yeah.
and then they can build on that in whatever way they like once the doors open, you know?
Yeah, lovely. And you mentioned about, grace, having putting giving yourself grace, giving yourself compassion in moments when you feel overwhelmed in
Mhm.
creating and putting something out there. Because like you said, it's hard to because when you are in the thick of it, all you ever think about is just this, it's magnified.
Right,
Right. And you said something about let's zoom out for a bit. Why are we doing this in the first place? Because
exactly.
it becomes like, oh, I'm doing it for, I'm doing it because of, sometimes it's not even about, we just lose focus on what was important in the first place. Right. So
That's
when you
exactly what it
first
was.
started out, probably it's going to be, oh, I'm going to, somebody is going to do this, and this is what the turnout is going to be: more self-awareness, more self-care,
Mhm.
etc. But then eventually it turned out to be suddenly you're so into it that
Right,
the fear became so big, and that it's actually
huge.
stopping you
Yeah,
from doing
I mean,
that.
the other journal was part of my final project for CAP, for the positive psychology program. And I love what I've created there, but for me, it's I had lost focus, honestly, and it had become more about me and me showing myself to the world and
Mm-hmm,
everything that I
mm-hmm.
know and have experienced and have learned. And really was taking away from this isn't for me. This isn't about me. This is about who I'm creating it for. It's about the people that can benefit from it. Um, and looking at it from that perspective, the taking a lot out of it actually made it more effective in that way. You know what I mean? It makes it
Yeah.
more welcoming for people to step into. And that's really what it's about. It's just an invitation, a soft opening. Like this, you don't
Right.
have to go to like a boot camp, every day a week workout type thing. Just hang out with yourself for a little bit.
Yeah, and it's perfect because you do have that in your journal.
Yeah,
It is about, like you said, it's just 10 minutes of like awareness every day. It's a date with yourself every
yeah,
day. And it's not easy to have that. I mean, especially with all the information overload and everything that's just like, I feel like I've consumed content, like my brain is so full of like
I'm so
content.
with you.
Right. And you're right. Like just having that kind of awareness every day to just set aside even just 10 minutes of your time to say, this is for me, and I'm going to turn
Right,
inward, and I'm going to check in with myself, like, how am I doing, what am I feeling, right?
right,
So I think that's very important. um and going back to what you said, I just wanted to like give like summarize it a little bit. So it's importantly, you can just start small or just begin,
right.
and it's not so much about you, right? So just yeah, refocus. I guess. What
Mm,
is this for? What is the essence of what you're doing, what you're creating? And you'll need grace and compassion. Check in or tap into that because you will
right,
be needing it as you go through the creative process. So
exactly.
that's just the takeaways that I have
And
had.
if I can add to
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
it's more about like the ripple effect of
Uh-huh.
what that 10 minutes of thinking about yourself does for the rest of your day.
Yeah.
Because you could turn really any practice into a practice of more self-awareness or self-love if you're coming at it from a different perspective. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's more about just knowing as you're going into your day, oh, I want to do an act of self-care, or when something goes wrong in your day and those little, threatening brain cells are going off, to be able to zoom out, or like, what am I going to write in the journal about this? Like, just to look at it in a different way, which causes you to kind of act differently in the way that you are showing up in the world, and the way that you see yourself in the world, and the way that you see the world looking at you. So that little 10 minutes a day, um, even if you don't dive in deep for those 10 minutes, just having planted that seed in your brain
Mm-hmm.
going throughout your day from there on out really does change things. It's the
Yeah.
little tiny things, just awareness of when we're being self-critical or judgmental of others or ourselves, or putting too much pressure on. And yeah, just like that, like I said, the ability to zoom out and think about what really matters to you. What are your passions?
Yeah.
What are your values? And stop being so hard on yourself.
Yeah, that's a very important reminder.
Yeah,
Yeah, you mentioned about the habits and how these small little things that we do every day can you can build on that. And so that maybe it's not even 10 minutes, right? I mean, maybe 5 minutes, then the
yeah,
next day you can do more. And then, day to day, they keep adding to that. And next thing you know, it's ingrained or part of your routine. So
fully.
yeah, so the good thing about the journal is I've um seen it, and it's fairly simple. Like it
Super
doesn't
simple.
require a lot of like you don't have to even like think so much, because I mean other journals, like there is a I think there's a time for that. Like it depends on on your mood, right? And the attention that
Exactly.
you you want to give to it.
Yes,
But this one is like just check in, right? And it's simple. And I think
super
that's
simple.
sometimes, yeah, that's sometimes that's maybe just what we need,
Exactly.
especially when it's so busy and you just, don't have much
It ma
time.
it makes it so it doesn't seem like you are forcing yourself to do something for yourself. You know what I mean? It's more of just like oh, this is just part of my day, and like it can be quick, um, and it's opening you up to just seeing things differently throughout the rest of your day. And like you said, there are journals where you can dive in super
Yeah,
deep, and like the journaling prompts will help you, discover shadow sides, or whatever it is that you want to call it.
right.
All of the words for the same things.
Yeah.
Um, and this is in a way that, like, if you get to there and you want to dive in, it's there for you to dive in deeper, because it's asking the questions that can bring that up for you. But if you don't want to and you're not ready
Mm-hmm.
for it, it's something that can like kind of evolve with you, depending on, it's just so you can create your own practice depending on where you are at in your
Yeah.
journey. So this is kind of like, I don't want to say it's for beginners, but it's for anybody that like hasn't tried to do some sort of self-care practice before, doesn't feel like they have the time. Um, yeah.
Yeah, great. So in terms of journaling, I know there's a science behind it. One of the things that you mentioned and we talked about is that, building awareness, and it's also helping us have that habit. And at the same time, it could also be a way for, relaxation, therapy, introspection, and allowing ourselves to be more reflective. So
Hmm.
what are other benefits I think that, journaling
I think
can
just
give?
taking that time to sit down with yourself, and as I said before, just hang out with yourself is beneficial on its own. It's creating a moment of mindfulness for you, whether you are intending to do that or not. It's inviting you to reflect on your day from more of an outside perspective, to kind of take your feelings out of a situation that might have been sticky, or
Mhm.
dive deeper into what's behind those feelings. Um, but it's telling your brain that this is something that's important to you, that all of a sudden, like, I care about who I am, where I'm at, and how I want to show up in the world, and I'm putting action towards creating the me that I want to be. And
Mhm.
your brain, your ego, whatever you want to call it, they're all on your side, even if they're misaligned. And it's assigning it a job that will serve you today, as
Mhm.
opposed to going through the motions of life. We In this fast-paced world, and the doomsday narrative that is very much getting pushed to us from different directions today with a lot of uncertainty, it's a moment to step away from that and come back to what truly matters to you. And simply by doing that, your brain will now be scanning for those
Mhm.
positive things that can lead you in a good positive direction of possibilities and positivity, instead of going with the flow of, like, having to ride the wave of life. It's like
Yeah. Mhm.
it's not ignoring the negatives, but it's being able to navigate it in a way that makes sense for you, you know?
Yeah. Hey, yeah, thank you for that. I know that the journal is mostly on centering on self-care.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what does self-care look like for you?
My practices, just as everybody's, have been forever evolving.
Okay.
But I
Yeah.
think for me, it's the awareness that literally any practice could be a self-care practice.
Mm,
Like,
mhm, mhm.
it depends on the perspective that you walk into it with. I think I even put in the journal at some point, but, like, the simple act of doing your dishes or making yourself dinner can be an
Mm,
act
love
of
that. Yeah.
self-care, as opposed to a chore and I must do and I have to do. If you look at it as I get to nourish my body, I have the opportunity to create what I want that's enjoyable to me. Tidying up the house, like, I'm creating a space that I thrive in, that I love to hang out with. In like, those simple things can be an act of self-care if you walk
Mm,
into
mhm.
those activities with that intent, as opposed to, ugh, I have to do laundry again. Like, why does this happen every week? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I can
And then
relate.
me personally, the things I have recently, I took a meditation course. It was Ziva Online. I'm not an
Mhm.
affiliate, but I fully recommend them. They're fantastic. As I told you before, somebody that is a chronic overthinker, my brain doesn't stop. So I've tried to start a meditation practice on my own many times, and would quickly become very judgmental with myself. And
Mm,
it was
mhm.
doing the opposite of what it was meant to do. Because I'm like, why can't I stop this? Like, shh, quiet brain. Like, this is not the
Mm,
time.
mhm.
And really taught me a different way of doing that. So just 15 minutes at the start of the day, 15 minutes in the evening makes a big difference. But my soft opening to that was really, I call it the hour of power. It's the 30 minutes before you go to bed at night and the 30 minutes when you wake up in the morning.
Mhm,
And if
mhm.
you can make those minutes filled with what you want in life, what you're striving for, what you love right now, and raise the vibration of those minutes in your world,
Mhm.
you will see the changes in your life. Like, I can tell the difference because I was laughing at myself. When you first start these practices, it's like I'm talking to myself in my bed at night. Like, does this seem normal? But you can literally see the difference when I don't tell myself, like, I intend to get a good night's sleep tonight and I intend
Mm.
to wake up rested and energized and ready to take on tomorrow. And before I get out of bed in the morning, I make sure I tell myself, today is going to be a wonderful day. Everything is going to work out the way that I see it or better. Like, it sounds delusional, but these things work. You're making a request to yourself, and as I said before, it's assigning your brain a mission to look for these positive opportunities. And you have to do nothing to do that. Like, it does it on its own after you tell it to. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how powerful the mind is.
Yeah.
And well, thank you for sharing all this. Like, I think these are
Yeah, sorry, that was all
mini
over the place.
self practices. No, no, no. This is absolutely wonderful. I love this. I love the hour of power, the 30 minutes
Yes.
before bedtime, 30 minutes after you wake up.
Mhm.
Because I this thing kind of I it this really resonated with me because there's that temptation of actually just using your phone, right? The first thing waking up, the phone, the last thing before going to bed is the phone, right?
Right.
So so the hour of power will not only just like raise that feeling, the energy that you
Mhm.
have, and then like allow you to like slow down right before you sleep at night, but also at the same time not have to be the phone will not be the default.
Exactly.
You do that, yeah, so that's great. Like
It's
I'm
providing
glad you
you an
shared this.
opportunity to create the space that you want to be in when you go to bed at night, and the space that you want to be in when you start off your day without the outside influence and the noise.
Right, yeah, to just really have that, to own that part of the day and make it like, okay, it's this is mine
Mm.
and
Yeah.
this is sacred. Yeah, I think it's very important to have something like that,
And folks, it's
especially
okay if
again.
you want to start with 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be 30
Right,
minutes
yeah,
or
right,
30 minutes.
right, right.
Like anything, like seriously, any
Yeah,
little thing is a start.
right. Yeah, even just a few minutes a day, a
Yeah.
few minutes at night to do that. And so self-care is essential because like you said, the way we define self-care is different for each one, right? So
Mhm.
some may be like, you'll go to spa, get a massage,
Right.
etc. But like you said, it can be as simple as, washing the dishes or doing the laundry and changing the mindset towards that. And I can relate when you said about doing the laundry.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, we gotta do the laundry today. And
Again.
especially cooking. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I have to
And
cook
that's never
today.
been my favorite, let me tell you.
Yeah, I mean, so that's one thing about what intention are you bringing?
Yeah.
Right. And when you're doing it, it's not a chore. Yeah, a chore is something energy wise, it's already heavy.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like a choice that I am doing this,
Right.
right?
For
Not
me,
because
because I want to.
yeah, because I want to. Not because I need to, I have to.
Right.
That drudgery of doing stuff like that. But yeah, and that's another one wonderful thing to note about self-care, and I love it because it changes. It's different from what we normally see as self-care.
Yeah, you don't
So
have to go to the
thanks for
spa and get a pedicure, you don't have to spend money.
right.
Anything can be
Yeah.
self-care, and I
Anything can be
really do
self-care.
think that it's the most important part of your life. Like, I have no doubt that the most impactful relationship you will have in this lifetime is the relationship that you have with yourself,
Mm,
and the most beautiful thing about that is you are fully in control of that. That is
yeah,
all on you, and that is the thing that will be the most impactful, the most important, make the biggest difference in your life. So, it's just like it's taking your power back.
exactly, exactly. And yeah, and doing that and just choosing each
Yeah,
time and treat it like you're not enslaved towards it. You're not victimized by
exactly.
it. Right? That's wonderful. Thanks for sharing the self-care practices. Okay, so we have like a few more minutes, and So just to wrap things up, do you have like a favorite go-to tool or practice? I know you've shared a bunch with us, but is there something that, you'd like that every day, something you go back to, something
The ev
simple that we can all do?
the everyday, I think the thing when I started learning about positive psychology and practicing
Mm-hmm.
it was just being aware throughout the day with my thoughts, mostly around myself is the way that I started it. And the way that I talk to myself and the things that I say out loud. And I actually noticed this past week that that's made a difference. Like for example, I hurt my back pretty bad last year and had to have
Mm-hmm.
surgery. And I remember on a regular basis, anytime I like living alone, my husband was away, but anytime I would say something out loud, it was like, stupid girl, why'd you bend like that? You know what I mean? And then me
Mm-hmm.
correcting
Yeah.
myself. Anytime I would say something like that, then I would force myself to say out loud, not force myself, but ask myself to. Um, that's not true because, and list three reasons why that's not true and refute what I said. And like, and
Mm-hmm.
then what did you really mean by that? And I have been doing that now for a few years. And I realized literally just last week that the only things that I said out loud while I was in my house alone that day was good job, girl. Like that was
Mm.
awesome. I'm proud of you. And I'm like, wait a second, is this the same person? Like
Oh my
this
gosh.
stuff really, really does work. It takes
Mm.
time to create the new neural pathways and it takes time to make them as easily accessible as us scanning for threats like is our default mode.
Mm-hmm.
But if
Mm-hmm.
you just do the simple little things of listen to the way you speak to yourself and then speak to yourself correcting it in the way that you want to be speaking to yourself, and making a habit of just being aware, just be aware of your
Mm-hmm.
thoughts and cultivate them to be the way you want them to be. Like, it really is all on you,
Yeah.
and it's lovely.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. Like you mentioned that one, and that's the tool that you've been practicing each time. Because yeah, we can if we're not too aware or too conscious about what we say to ourselves, we are so mean.
We are worse than we are to, like, the
Oh my
people that have treated
gosh,
us
you're
the
so
worst in
mean to
life. Like,
ourselves. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it's like stupid or
right,
stupid girl or
and I'm
like
like, I would never say that to somebody in life. Why
right.
am I talking to
Exactly.
myself like that?
That's true. So I love this, that's not true because there are three
Mhm.
reasons that's not true. And not and the thing about it is that not necessarily having to like switch it from, the negative side to positive side. Because I think that's also one of the things that people think when we say
Right,
positive psychology, right? So it's just
right.
automatically going to the positive, but it's really not.
No, it it's about more bringing it back to truth and
Yeah.
accuracy. Like, what did you really mean there? What was really happening in that situation? Um, and cultivating your words to be more accurately reflecting what is going on in your experience at that time, as opposed to reacting to it, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And not necessarily
And
like
yeah, if you can't find
go
something
for.
true and positive to reframe things as, zoom out. I promise the further you zoom out, you will find something true and positive. But if you can only get to true and neutral, that is perfect. Like that
Yeah.
start there and use
Right.
that to build bridges until you feel confident. Like affirmations, if you don't believe what you're saying to yourself, then you're just using
Mhm.
your breath. You're not actually doing anything. And if, in fact, you're putting more pressure on yourself
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
believe what you're saying. So use the in between words, even if it starts with, like, I am open to believing I am powerful. You know
Mm-mm.
what I
Love
mean?
that. Yeah. Yeah. These are very helpful and very important. And yeah, so I hope that, for those who are watching this or listening to this, that you're able to get a lot of like gems here
I hope
that Kaylee
so.
shared with us. That Kaylee shared with us. And so Kaylee, before we end, is there anything else that you would like to share that we haven't touched on in this conversation?
Um, just that everybody's important and we're not all meant to be the same. I think that the most fulfilling thing that you can be in this world is just authentically, naturally you. And it
Mm,
sounds so simple, but it's really one of the hardest things to do. But if you just allow yourself to look at yourself with openness and curiosity, and compassion and love, like
yeah,
that, your world will change. And don't try to fit somebody else's mold. If it doesn't feel good, that's your opportunity to dive in and get curious. And if it feels good, it's a yes. If it doesn't feel good, dive in.
yeah, perfect. I love the dive in one. It coincides or it goes with your, wild adventure in
Yes.
your sailing and being on
Yes.
the waters. So, yeah, so I appreciate you. And once again, thank you for being here, for sharing your wonderful knowledge, for bringing that, sunshine and ray of light. And, and I think that's what we need in this world right now. Just that kind of positivity, that not necessarily a toxic one,
No.
but it's just being open, allowing
Yeah.
yourself to be open to it, that
Yeah.
for positivity to come in, but also bringing a lot of awareness in there and using tools and practices, and some of which that Kaylee shared with us today. So thank you again, Kaylee,
Thank you so
for
much
this
for
time.
having me. This is lovely. I really appreciate
Okay, you're so welcome.
it.